I'm kind of skeptical over the word solution
Mm-hmm.
because that assumes there is a problem that you're trying to solve. And complexity is not a problem to solve. One thing that's always important is the intent. And intent is not just hopefully or if it's a good day, but intent is will. Younger generations are looking more for autonomy and humanity, caring, love. They want to feel this at work. People are quitting now because
Hi there. Welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow and scale your business. In this episode, I had a discussion with the Kathleen Curran, pioneering cultural transformation leader and a founder of Intercultural Systems. With over 20 plus years of driving global initiatives in a Fortune 500 companies, she builds culture of true belongings, future-ready leadership, and equitable growth. At the intersection of strategy, global relations competence, and psychological innovations, Kathleen helps organizations shift from a US-centric to truly global mindset, unlocking talent, empathy-driven productivity, and sustainable success worldwide. She's also an adjunct professor, College of Business at University of Huston Downtown, and her vision, every individual seen, thriving, and contributing without limits. So this was very interesting discussion. We talked about various business leadership challenges and opportunities for many firms. She shared insights on one of the key escalating challenge for business leaders is a growing uncertainty in a business. She talks about strategies, how to comprehend, and also what can business leader do to mitigate this uncertainty. She also talked about cost of uncertainty, decision-making process, and profound impact on a business and leadership teams. We always talk about Canadian leadership or US leadership, but when you talk to somebody who's involved in a global leadership, she's a different perspective. I learned how global business leadership is a little bit different way approach the leadership teams, and we do that in North America. Hope you guys enjoy this discussion as much as I did. If you like this conversation, don't forget to send us a feedback. Our commitment is to grow this channel, have a better conversation to add a value to your business. So don't forget to send us your feedback. Until next time, enjoy it, and please welcome Kathleen Curran. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today our guest is Kathleen Curran. Kathleen, the area of your expertise with the business leaders, strategies, all those areas, very, very important what we're going through economically currently. So I'm looking forward to our discussion, looking forward to learning from you. Thank you so much for your time today.
thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here. I'm
You're
looking
welcome.
forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Welcome. So I want to start from here. You've been teaching leadership. You've been helping business leaders. You've been working on a strategies. Building, developing strategies, implementing strategies with the business leaders. Worked in a different continent and various different industries. So want to start from here. What do you think is the biggest shift in a leadership where we see right now, economically or culturally or people wise? And there's so many changes going on. Where you see some of the biggest shifts are?
Where they are or where I wish they would be.
Either one of them. Let's talk about both.
Where they are, I think so much research tells us, whether it's from, say, practitioner reports such as McKinsey or PwC and so on, the shift is uncertainty, a giant increase in uncertainty. And I just read from a McKinsey report, 80% of leaders say they are unprepared for the volume, the magnitude of uncertainty that we're in. Every day we wake up, there's something new to deal with. And so that uncertainty is, while it's been around in forever, right? There's always something new. That uncertainty is making people really question all the time and have a harder time pivoting. What should we do? In fact, of having the same discussion last night, that it's not a question of, well, what have we done this past year so we can now incrementally grow from that? It's rather, what approach should we be taking? So that uncertainty is causing a lot of need to scan the environment, to figure out what are the key factors. As Rita McGrath, one of my favorite authors from Columbia University, says, How do you notice the inflection points? So that's where people are feeling, they're kind of searching, but where I wish it would go is that I quote here Daniel Goleman, EQ fame, who says,
Mhm.
"Uncertainty is a sign and symptom of learning." And so to say, "We're in a place of learning and I don't know, and I need everybody in their wisdom to support this search, this discovery, to have their radar on." That's kind of where we are and where I'm hoping and in my work trying to move us towards is looking around more, noticing where is there a void and what's filling it and or what could fill it and I don't know and what to do with I don't know-ness.
Got it. So very interesting point. So two things you mentioned, very interesting. So one, I recently saw your article of as cost of uncertainty. Want to talk about that. So I see a lot of what you just mentioned is I see that as a biggest change that out there people are dealing with, and I deal from a business standpoint. It was so there was definitely a cost of uncertainty. Very interesting article I saw that on a LinkedIn. Where do you think the cost is? Is it a burnout as a cost, or is it a delay in a decision making process a cost? What is the cost of uncertainty that business leaders that are dealing with?
Well, all of the above that you mentioned. There is the idea of decision fatigue. There's so many decisions to make, and they're 50-50. You can make a decision and think you've covered all your bases in terms of, "Is this a good decision? Is this gonna work?" And then bam, something happens the next day. I can think of one gentleman who had very creatively reorganized his whole supply chain network in Asia and did divert like, okay, some things will be produced China, some in Vietnam, but some will build up the line in India.
Hmm.
Next day, 50% tariffs from India. So that decision, whoa, another one. Now what? So it's kind of this process of, okay, we've got a great idea. And deflated because, well, that one didn't work, or now there's something new we have to consider. So that is tiring, that is exhausting. And we know even from a personal sense, the cost of that to burnout is
Hmm.
high because when you're living in uncertainty, you're always on high alert, right? Neurolinguistically, neuroscientifically,
Yeah.
we're on high alert because we're trying to protect our position, ourselves, our survival, and that's tiring because we're then mostly in reaction mode, just reacting to what happened rather than having that, what we call in IDCAN, the power of the pause, like, "Wait, okay, let's let's revisit, let's regroup." We've done some scenario planning, we've done some what ifs, we've tried to anticipate as best possible. We've put things in place that would enable us to respond quickly, pivot
Hmm.
quickly, but it's tiring. And so that high alert really weighs on leaders. Um, That's where I think even the cost comes from. It's a physical cost, it's a mental cost. It's also then there's a clear cost to how things roll out.
And the cost of decision as well. The time and effort you put in is not only your time, your
Yeah,
team's time as well. If you change the strategy, everybody's following you, and the time of all the payroll costs, all the investment costs in a company as well.
yeah, yeah,
So as a leaders, we can't change what's going on economically. There's a lot of things we don't have a control over. So how do we deal with these things? Is it a simply just a built a skill how to deal with this uncertainty, or is it something we can plan, or simply just work on yourself? What do you think there could be a solution to these challenges, because we don't have a control over a lot of things?
Mm. Well, I'm kind of skeptical over the word solution
Hmm.
because that assumes there is a problem that you're trying to solve. And complexity is not a problem to solve. It is just there. So Yeah, I could have some suggestions, but let me tell you a couple of things that I'm working on that are our intent is to approach exactly what you're talking about, because it's not going away. It's more how do you get used to it? I don't even like saying that. No,
Mm.
no, not get used to it. How do you shift your means of balancing? I look at it as like you're on a boat, and the seas are rough. And we're not talking cruise ship. We're talking a boat where we can feel it. And it's constantly shifting back and forth. And you're being pitched one side to another. But after a while, you get your sea legs and you know how to go with the roll.
Yeah.
That's
So
what it is.
can I suggest can I talk about my solution to this, and then
Oh,
maybe I want to get your take on it. What do you think of
yeah.
that?
Okay.
So there's always uncertainty. You're absolutely right. It's not going away, but the level of uncertainty goes ups and down, right? So you get a roadblock against, let's say, you lost a biggest customer. There's uncertainty how we're gonna go forward with it, right? There's always comes market changes, everything changes. You don't know what to do. The way I've been approaching, and it's been working somewhat for me. I have my goals. I write my goals. So every time I hit uncertainty, I just review my goals, what I'm trying to achieve. So I focus on a bigger picture. That clarifies a lot of stuff around me. Is it really uncertainty, or is it just I'm taking a different way that it should have been? So
Mhm.
every time I have the setbacks, I just focus on the goals more, or focus on where my objectives are, what I'm trying to drive for this year. It kind of clarifies a little few things for me. Does that does that make sense? Or
It does. It does because one thing that's always important is the intent. And intent is not just hopefully or if it's a good day, but intent is will. And so when you know what your goals are and you will, I mean that's one of my most favorite authors, Peter Kumpo, writes about emergent strategy. And
Mhm.
you have this aspiration, you have this goal you're trying to achieve. And there's a lot in the middle stuff. And you can't do an aspiration. You're like, "This is my goal, I want that." Well, things get in the way,
Yeah.
but you can take actions. You can recognize the influences, and you can then say, "If I am here, how do I remove those bottlenecks or those obstacles that are in the way?" Sometimes what's in the way is external. Yeah, you know, look what came down today.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's personal. Sometimes it's inside you. Sometimes
Yeah.
most times you're in your own way.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, okay, here's where I wanna go, but all these things keep happening. What's my strategy for removing those roadblocks?
Yeah. And business leaders gotta understand, whether even though it's a certainty out there, but you can't afford to not make a decision. You still gotta make a decision. You still gotta move on. So you just gotta figure out how to deal with it. I mean, the cost of not making decision, even though it's uncertain time,
Yeah.
there's also a cost of not making decision because
Oh, yeah.
adding time to it is no decision, and as you know, no decision is a decision, right? So there's a cost of that as well, right? So not only the brain
Yeah.
drain and all that kind of, but the cost of not making decision has a huge
Oh,
cost.
and that's one of the things we just talked about, that decision fatigue and that burnout is like, I don't know what to do, and so I'll just wait a bit, and then I'm not sure yet, I'm not sure yet. That takes energy too. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
So one thing that I've been working on when I talk about I don't knowness was inspired just by that in during times during COVID when we watched leaders have this struggle, conventional leaders who we expected to have the answers and to have some kind of solution for us. And in most cases, many cases, they kind of abdicated. You know,
Mm.
nobody around to give the answer, and so what am I supposed to do? Um, well, we looked at why is it so different? Why don't you just tell us the truth? I don't know. And we realized there is a lot of self-protection going on. So we looked at what do leaders do when they don't know what to do? And one of the things that happens, what we've been talking about now, is they get triggered. Like you're talking about, what do I do? That moment when you are like deer in the headlights, I don't know. And then you think, should I know? I'm supposed to know. I am the leader. And how will I look if I don't know? And how I look to myself if I don't know? Because I I I expect in this role I would know. This is what I've always done, and I always know. So knowing is kind of overrated. There is
Hmm.
an upside to knowing. Yes, I feel confident. This is great. I know what to do. There's a downside to knowing. Did you know that?
Yeah. Just
You would think it's always positive to know, right?
yeah, yeah. I would say because a lot of areas I don't, a lot of areas I'm not expert at. I run a technology company. I'm not expert at accounting. I'm not expert at law firms. I'm not expert at marketing. So those areas, if you ask me to make a decisions, I definitely don't know. And I always thought, definitely you need to get expert on that area to make a decisions. But I don't know anything. I'm not expert on that area. So you mentioned that there is an upside to it, and I'm trying to understand what is upside to that if I'm making decision in this area.
So upside is clear, you know. Downside of knowing is have you been in a meeting where the same thing is discussed that you thought was already wrapped up last week?
Many times.
So what do you do when that happens? What's your personal reaction when that happens?
I usually review what happened and simply say, listen, we already talked about it. We already made a decision on this. We just got to
Okay.
revisit the conversation.
So there's that time cost there because we are
Yeah.
this. But even if you're not in a position to call it out, you're in that kind of meeting, you should just
Got it.
I'm like, "Uh,
Here we go again.
like, check out, let me know when y'all are done." And so there's a downside to knowing. Or sometimes if you're the one who knows, you're the expert, then, "Oh, you know, so you go do it." And it's really, I know how to do it, but I don't really want to, or it's not my job.
That's it.
So there's the other side is really, I don't know then. So downside of I don't know, we can already recognize this kind of fear or uncertainty that what should I be saying or doing? And then there's the upside of not knowing, which you already said. I don't know everything, and therefore I have these experts around me. So there we have a space of the curiosity and the creativity and the more freedom to experiment. So there we get back to the mindset idea. For uncertainty is a sign and symptom of learning. So I don't know. Isn't that great?
Hmm.
Let's develop, what do we need to know how to do? What skills do we need to develop? What expertise do we need to get on board, given all of the signs we are watching out for on our radar? So it's a way of really staying nimble, um, and again, getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
So there's that first trigger, which sometimes sends you to what we call the mud, where it's, I don't know, and it's thick and it's heavy and it's hard to make your way through and you can't see what's in front of you. But you know how the water lily grows?
Yeah.
That seed lives in the mud for quite a while, gaining the nutrients until it gets strong enough to rise up above and bloom.
Yeah.
So I learned that when I was doing my own dissertation research, and is this right? Am I writing this? Is this correct? And then wait, I appreciate now being in the mud, because that's when you're learning, when you're gaining, so that then, okay, let me pause, let me see what's going on, what's really in the way. Like you mentioned, what can I control? What can I not control? What can I influence? What's out of, no way.
Yeah.
And then you can just say, what do I need to develop to consider more options and now make a decision that is very well considered? And what we find in using this process this is I don't knowness process, when you've really explored it and you have, like you said, I've got my goals, I know what I want, then you have reasoned it, you've consulted with others, you're considered options, and you make your decision, your choice, a conscious choice that is now made with great confidence and conviction.
Uh,
So it's no longer that leader who stands up and fakes it
mhm.
and pretends he or she knows. Now, substance.
Yeah.
So that's one way of dealing with that.
So
That
very interesting. So you already talked about a few areas of IDKN. If you talk about in a general, how do is that there's a website called IKDN and it's the idkn.org, right? That's a
that
website.
yeah.
So what is all about? Is that is that a process? Is that a framework? Or is there consulting that you guys do? So what is the whole idea? Where does idea came from, and what do you guys do in that area?
Yeah, a simple answer, yes, to all of those. So, it's a process. We have it on a landscape because I'm a systems thinker. So, imagine a landscape of the mud and getting out of the mud, and then there's this clearing where you can clear your head, and then you have some challenges, and then you can see broader perspectives. So it's a process as well as it's a leadership practice. That's when we do the consulting, it's a leadership practice. But we have the framework and the
Mm,
model to use. So it's a tool, framework, and practice. And we find that when you develop that facility to notice if you're in the mud and you can notice then in others, you can also facilitate your team developing the ability to do the same, to get things out of the way, to reach that state of curiosity and that working together. And then if all start learning, it actually would eventually bring that more acceptance, if you will, of "I don't
mm.
notice" to the organization. And that's the way organizations stay future focused, because you cannot predict the future. You can only prepare for it.
Got it. So not only you can master this a framework or learn this process, you can teach your teams as well, similar mindset and that you can develop as it. Very interesting. How does that talk about EGLT? How does that tie? And I want you to talk about what is EGLT about and what do you guys do in that area?
Yes. So EGTL stands for, sounds like I live with acronyms, right?
Yeah.
It's about it's the same phenomenon. Emergent generative team leadership. Quite a mouthful. We try to simplify it with EGTL, often confused with EGTLT, like BLT, but it is emergent generative team leadership. So when we talk about this void, this space of not knowing, this research came out of COVID as well, where we found that when our leadership abdicated, there was a void. And we needed something, right? Everybody needed answers, didn't know what to do, didn't know what was going on in the world. The whole world was focusing on one point at that time, which is pretty much a giant phenomenon in itself. But we found that something filled the void. It's not just an empty space. In fact, if you look at the etymology of the word void, it has senses of yearning, wanting, needing. So here's a void, an open space. Think of the jungle. Where does a seed drop and sprout? Not where it's crowded, where there's a void, where there is access to all the nutrients and the rain and the sun. Um, so in this void, there's potential. And what filled the void? And when we looked at back, we were all here, people fill the void. Not because they had particular skills necessarily. They came together because they cared. And that was the driver. So we identified 4 forces that drive these teams. IDCAN helps the individual to be able to be part of such a team. But what it is a group that comes together because they care. The 4 forces that ignite them are intent, which I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Hope, which is an active hope. It's agency. I know what we want, and I know we have what it takes to achieve it. Care, which is like accountability, and love. Not generally the language of business, but love is the only emotion that inspires learning and connection. And so with these four forces, the teams came together and formed such strong bonds based on the emotions that it's stronger connections and more stable in times of turbulence than any org chart will ever be.
Right.
So,
So I
yep.
want to make sure that we don't make, the audience, we get all those you mentioned intent, hope, uh, caring,
Care
and
and
and love.
love.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh,
And those are the four forces that provide the stability. And what happens, and here's the important part, it enables the team to lead themselves. So we know about self-organized teams, self-managed teams. EGTL is team-led teams. So team-led teams have autonomy, more autonomy. They're pockets. I'm not saying turn the whole organization into um, EGTLs. It's pockets. But when it's run, the team has that kind of connection. They are more innovative. There's certainly more trust. There's more capacity to learn together because we are a collective team. So team-led teams have much more flexibility, adaptability, pivot ability to see what's happening immediately because they're generally teams closer to customers, closer to where things are happening. They notice things faster, and they don't have to have someone directing. It kind of cuts out management, which
mhm.
is often one of the blocks because don't want to give up the control, or that's my job, right?
Yeah.
I'm here to provide the information and coordinate. So EGTLs are team-led teams. So that's what we are working on, developing our team-led teams who can recognize those emotions. Often we don't, right? When you go to work,
Mhm.
you kind of leave that outside.
Yeah. So you mentioned EGTL. When you look at teams that so well performing team or teams are top performers or they're happening they've bought into this philosophy and they're working on it. What do you see as some of the common characters in these teams? You mentioned those four attributes. Definitely understand. We already talked about it. What else? And I saw nature was one of them on a website. But what else you see from your perspective that these teams are they have a similar mindset or they have a similar goals, or you simply they have a similar approach to certain things. What do you see some of the top characteristics to for these teams?
Well, when they come together because they care, automatically the intent is shared as well. So they're aligned in what they want. And that means we know where we're going. We can call it purpose, but a distinction that's important is it's not agreeing as much as aligned. We believe in the same thing, we want the same thing, we work towards the same thing. So one of the key characteristics we see is teams want to be there and do this.
Here's the intent.
And the intent is so strong. And they create space for authentic emergence. So emergence is one of the key things. There is this place where things can emerge and ideas are generated. And generativity means we generate what we need now at the moment. And so when it changes fast, we generate more ideas. And we have created the climate where that is a value of ours. And we operate that way. So with the hope, the team cultivates this resilience and this possibility and enables teams to navigate this uncertainty with confidence. So we see that too, is that ability. Now it doesn't come naturally because we're used to working in hierarchies,
Yeah.
but these are the characteristics that we know are important, and then we work to develop that. So care is sort of a nurturing force. Um, People can, um, like, I care about you. So if you have a different opinion, I want to understand it. I don't need to debate it. We are already aligned in what we want. So it's just another way of reaching it. And when we value creativity and generativity, great, you disagree.
Yeah.
And finally, love, it's sort of that binding energy. I met a man on the plane in April going to a summit in Dublin. And I was talking about this because I talk about it so much to everybody. So even poor people who sit next to me on the plane learn about EGTL too. Um, and he was describing, he said, "You're describing my team." I'm like, "Really?" And he talked so much using the word love. Like, that is unusual. Usually that I do not hear that in the conversation. From me, yes, but from the other side, no. And he said he works at Subaru, and that's part of their language.
Mhm.
Um, it was interesting because it was a case of their team becoming an EGTL. It's an organic coming together to do something that we care about. And why do you think it came together? What happened? The manager was kind of not present. So when there's a void, we can fill it with something very valuable. And we believe, totally believe, that we need more humanity back in business. It's not just about making the money. This is the way to infuse this energy in a team who is then happier, more productive, and more effective in their work. And the customers are too happier, receiving better service. It's not slowed down by a manager having to make a decision. So we're actually alleviating some of that decision fatigue as well. So you see how everything fits together.
Yeah. Um, does culture has any impact on it? So let me qualify what I mean. So you worked in a different continent, with whether it's Asia, whether it's in a North America or other continent. Do culturally people respond to this or approach these things differently than one versus other?
There is a cultural element. We can't deny that. I'm an interculturalist first. My first master's was in intercultural communication. And then first job, Saudi Arabian government, diplomatic agency. So all those theories came to life very quickly working in a Saudi diplomatic agency. Um, and then I moved to Asia, Malaysia first, and then Singapore for almost 25 years. And yes, you can't deny that culture has an influence. But I think, no, I shouldn't even use the word but. It has an influence. For example, maybe matter of degree in this case, because we're saying team-led teams, cut out hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Many cultures in Asia are quite hierarchical. In fact, Latin America, many
Mm-hmm.
are quite hierarchical. So you say, no, we don't want managers. You lead yourselves. Well, there is a gap there. Um, but it's not a gap or a void that cannot be filled. It takes more of a different structure. So structure is liberating. We're not saying throw out a hierarchy or even an org chart. We're saying that there's a different structure so that you can create that climate where people feel safe. I know what I'm doing. So a lot of it can be adapted. One company that is very well known for quite similar to what we're talking about here. EGTL is Hire. Do you know the company Hire in China?
No, I don't know. So there's a
They're
company called okay.
Yeah, H-A-I
Okay.
H-A-I-E-R.
Yeah.
Very interesting company because they have really gone to basically team-led teams, but in more like micro enterprises, micro communities, where it's people, like every community would have, say, marketing, finance, or all various areas, um, and the technical skills for whatever part of the company they're working in, but they're in lots of pockets. I don't think I'm going to describe it very eloquently here, but it's
Mhm.
a really interesting company to look up. But this is in China, and they're working famously with that kind of structure because that team has what it takes to serve particular clients that they are responsible for. And if they don't know something, they know who to go to right there next to them who come in support. So imagine a network, not a hierarchy.
Got it. And you kind of so the EGATL that also back to what we were talking about, Kathleen, also changes based on industry or companies. What I'm hearing that if you're hiring building a technology based company, you're hiring a lot of young people in it as a talent. I mean, hope and love may be more important to them, not that the caring part or something intent. Well, if you're hiring different kind of talent, maybe there's something else more important to them and then something else less important to them. So I'm trying to understand. So age group and industry type is does that changes based on their talent on the team? What's more important, what's less important to them, and you have to change your approach to it?
Mm, I think those variables always have to be present, no matter what we're talking about,
Hmm.
because humans are different. Um, thank goodness, right? How boring if everybody was the same. Um, I think we're finding Gen X and different generations, younger generations, are looking more for autonomy and humanity, caring, love. They wanna feel this at work. People are quitting now because, you know, this is just too much stress on focusing on deadlines and things less human, if
Hmm.
you will. So I think that's one thing I can say seems to be an advantage to try to develop EGTL. There is a receptivity, but it's not to say it's isolated to just younger generation. It is really, I mean, for me, I'm way older than that, and I've always said, "Well, I don't see that as a Gen Z, I'm like that." Or when we used to talk about millennials wanting more creativity and purpose and all, I'm like, "Oh, I want that too." So, I transcend generations, maybe we say. But I think, the other piece you mentioned, industry, I would have to say I haven't seen a difference across industry in my experience thus far. And the reason I say that is that when we talk about EGTL, I know examples of the Hire, which is a product tech-oriented, appliances and so on. You've probably heard of Hire air conditioners, I know that one.
Hmm.
Um, Morningstar, another well-known company who embodies this. Morningstar is a tomato processing company in California. All those cans of tomato sauce when you're making pasta,
Yeah.
processed by Morningstar. And they have this, what Rita McGrath calls permissionless, but it is team-led teams. And
Hmm.
their key pieces they talk about are the recruiting and the onboarding, just for the reasons you're talking about. Where's your head? Where's your intent? What do you feel you can adapt to? And then onboarding is major, getting used to this different way of working. So I see it across a wide spectrum of industries. Um, Again, one thing that is going to be a common denominator is AI. because
Mhm.
we don't need a manager to share the information. We have access to it all. And as a team, we can work with it probably more effectively than waiting to be updated at a weekly meeting or something like that. So AI is going to be a thread, I think. I'm not,
Mm.
I say I think, I'm standing on the shoulders of others who already thought this. Uh, but I see that being a common denominator of EGTL. So to answer your question, I don't see a difference across industries. I do believe culture and generation, which is a kind of culture, will make a difference.
Very interesting. So let's talk about your journey, Kathleen. You mentioned a little bit already that you worked overseas, for many different industries. So what got you interested in this? And if you talk about your journey, what you've been working on, and where are you spending most of the time these days? Are you still teaching, or simply focus on EGTL and other leadership initiatives? If you simply just walk us through where your headspace is.
I call myself a global spider because um, I'm one of those people who's never really done anything in a straight line.
Okay.
I am not linear. You might have detected this from the conversation already.
Okay.
But I say this because even I think about growing up, I lived in one kind of typical middle class neighborhood in Houston, and I went to a Catholic school. I was really into marching on a drill team with pom poms.
Hmm.
But my friends, I'm the only one who went to that school. All friends in the neighborhood went to the public school. So on weekends, I was marching, and on Friday nights, and other times I'm with the other friends. Two different worlds. And my friends from the neighborhood still, what, 50 years later, call me the bridge person. So I never had an issue with being, we're talking the 60s, kinda hippie-ish on the
Hmm.
weekend, and we sit in the woods and play guitar and sing Crosby, Stills, and Nash songs, and then marching on a drill team in a football game. I'm good with it, it's different, and nobody, I think, ever said anything about it. Nobody, no friends going, "That's silly, why do you do that?" And maybe it's because I had no problem with it. So I think I've always been more, when I say geographically rooted, horizontally rooted, not geographically rooted. I don't identify with one place or one group alone. And so I've spent my career in life making connections. It's just natural. So I quit college and went, what am I doing here after a couple years? And then went to backpack through Europe with alone um, for a year that was incredible. And it was in the days when it was still safe to do that.
Hmm.
And and it taught me I have this affinity for people and cultures. So I came back, finished my first degree in linguistics, then intercultural communication, then went overseas, and things evolved from there. So I was always went teaching or then facilitating training. And again, I was in Singapore, where no one in Singapore was only responsible for Singapore.
Yeah.
It's too small, but it's a regional headquarters. So immediately it was global skills, not just cross-cultural skills. And it was not just an individual, how do you lead here, 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 but rather what are the skills where you see with cultural relativity, more than, less than, and how do you use that to develop your team, and how do you support the development of a truly global organization? So it evolved from there. So, as an independent consultant, I have my own small company still registered in Singapore, um, and do this kind of work in leadership development, very much within a systems approach. So I work at the intersection of leadership, global competency, skills
Mhm.
development, and strategy. So if that's, going back to the emergent strategy. What are you going to do to remove any blocks to reaching your aspiration of being truly effective, truly global, truly happy? Now I'm back in Houston. I'm also adjunct professor at University of Houston Downtown, presently teaching strategy and in the leadership concentration. So I'm that spider always connecting, and maybe I also say I'm an octopus because I am into so many different things.
Yeah. And with the technology today, you can build work on with the leaders across the globe. It doesn't have to be one content. You can work across the globe.
Yes, yes.
And
I've always said I work on KST, which is Kathleen Standard Time.
yeah,
Don't mess around.
the clock's always running.
Wherever I am, that's what time it is.
But very interesting. Now, how can people connect with you? If somebody wants to have a conversation, definitely. I learned so much from you. I'm sure the business leader who are watching us, listening to us on a podcast. If they connect with you, they're gonna learn a lot. So, where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Okay, well, first I have to say it was a lovely conversation, which I feel like I dominated. So,
And that was a really great conversation. Yeah.
um, you can find me at egtl.net,
Okay.
idkn.org. Those are two the main projects, and my own, Kathleen at intercultural-systems.com. So even from beginning, I had systems in my name and in what I do.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to include a link to all of those below this video. People can click a button and they can connect with you. But yeah, I want to appreciate your time. It was great conversation. Enjoyed it. I learned so much from you, and I'm sure business leader who are listening or watching us. There's so many blind spot in around the leadership, and we can't see everything. That's why we need an expert like you to show us the blind spot and help us achieve those objectives. Because otherwise, we get just stuck in those blind spot for a long time, and it just waste a lot of time, right? So I will tell business leader to encourage to reach out to you, connect with you, have a conversation, and who knows where the discussion can take you.
I encourage the conversation for the conversation because it's an exploration. We none of us know.
Yeah.
Right? It's trying to think about what will work going forward. So I really, I would love for anyone to connect, just to kind of explore, talk about, think about a new way of being and doing. So when we see more, we can do more together.
And even just looking for different perspectives, sometimes, when you gain new perspective, you tend to solve a lot more problems much faster. So always, as a business leaders, you need to look for new perspective. You can solve some of those problems that you're up against.
Yeah, yeah. And you can easily say, I don't like that one.
Yeah, yeah. But if you're looking through only one angle, you're only gonna have a one solution. More angles you look at, you're gonna have multiple solutions to the problem you're trying to solve.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Oh, isn't that true? How many times have you gone, "Oh, I wonder anybody listening who has a cross-cultural marriage, how many
Yeah.
times did you go like, "Whoa, I never thought of looking at it like that." Well, that's pretty interesting. I could use that, you know? So, absolutely, and you see that it's hard to end such a conversation. There's so many good things to talk about. So I really appreciate you inviting me. It's been really fun.
Very interesting. Pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for time, Kathleen.
Thank you.